We're going to cover conditional formatting rules. First, we're going to talk about the rules of the rules. We'll look at the 6 standard options we have available to establish rules. We're going to establish a rule. We're going to establish several rules. We're going to copy that rule to other cells. And I'll show you a real quick example of what you can do by stacking the conditional formatting rules in certain ways. So conditional formatting, we're going to start with the rules of the rules. The first rule of the rules is you can have as many rules as you want. The second rule is multiple rules can be applied to the same cell. You're not just limited to one rule for a cell or a range. The third is that the first applicable rule listed carries the day if a subsequent rule has a format that's conflicting. That one is easier to show you than it is to explain, so that's what we're going to do in a minute. And the fourth rule is that formats are cumulative if they don't conflict. And again, I'm going to show you that. So when you're establishing formatting rules, by going to the Styles group on the Home tab, left-clicking Conditional Formatting, we have these flyout menus, Highlight Cells rules, Top, Bottom rules, data bars, color scales, and icon sets. All of that stuff was covered in prior movies. And we can sort of bypass those flyout menu presets and go directly to the new formatting rule dialog box. And in either case, you can get to this dialog box and have these 6 options shown to you, because these options are the same options that we have with 2 exceptions when we just hover over the flyout menus for highlight cells rules and top and bottom rules. And when we do that, we have the option again to go to more rules. I'll cancel out of that, and top and bottom rules, more rules again. Now the differences here on this list fall into this area: format only cells that contain, and the flyout menus will have the options for cell values, specific text, dates. We can get to all that, but what we don't have in the flyout menus is the ability to format on the basis of the cells being blank or not blank, or containing errors or not containing errors. And the other thing that we don't have access to, unless we go to one of these items on the list, is to use a formula to determine which cells to format, which is going to be the content of the next movie. So we're going to set up some conditional formatting rules. I'm going to left-click a cell in the range I want to conditionally format, and then press Control A to select the entire range, and then left-click Conditional Formatting, and hover over the Highlight Cells rules, and just select the first one. Any cell that's greater than 20, I'm going to conditionally format by using a green fill color. Left-click OK. So we see the effect of that. Any cell that's greater than 20, 21 and above, has a green fill. Left-clicking in that range again, Control A. I'm going to set up another rule for any cell that's greater than 10 to carry a fill that's red. Left-click OK and OK. So what's happened? The cells that are greater than 20 were green, and now they're no longer green. All the cells that are greater than 10 are now red, so the second rule that we set up carried the day. But when we go to the Manage Rules dialog box and we select the range where those rules are applied, because the current selection is not where the rules are. The current selection is cell F10. That's the active cell. When we go to this worksheet, we see the rules listed. And they're listed in the order that the last one I created is listed on top. And the older rules are pushed down as I create more and more rules. So, moving this dialog box, since the first rule is the one that's going to carry the day if there's a conflict with subsequent rules, any cell that's greater than 10 is going to have a red fill, and so the subsequent rule won't be applicable because any cell that's greater than 10 is also greater than 20. But I can change the order of these rules, and the effect of this should be that the cells that are greater than 20 will have a green fill, and the cells that are greater than 10 but not greater than 20 will have a red fill. Because where there's a conflict with the fill color, the first rule carries the day. I'm going to apply that, and that's what we see. I can also set up a rule in this way. I'm going to set up a new rule. I'm going to format on the basis of the ranking, and I'm going to format the top 20 items and select a format that involves something other than the fill. I'm going to italicize the font, put a border, left-click OK, and left-click OK. So what just happened? Well, the conditional formatting rule that we set up applies to the range that we selected, or the cell that we selected when we launched the dialog box, and that was cell F10. That's really not where I want to apply the rule, so I can select the field value, F10, and then select the range that I really want to apply that rule to. Left-click Apply. And when I go back to the conditional formatting rules that are applied on this worksheet, we see again that the last rule that I established is on top. And since the conditional formatting that was established by that rule doesn't conflict formatting-wise with the subsequent rules, all three of these rules are in play, and they're affecting the formatting of the cells. We also have the ability to left-click this box, and when I apply that new change, I'm telling Excel to stop evaluating those cells if the condition is met for that particular rule. So the subsequent rules will have no effect. Now with this dialog box, we have the ability to select a rule and edit the rule, delete the rule, or create a new rule as we just did. I'm going to deselect the Stop If True box, apply that, and close the dialog box. And the way that you copy conditional formatting from one region or one cell to another is the same way that you would copy any formatting. You can use the Format Painter. And so what we've actually done is painted the conditional formatting rules to the new range, so that when I go back to the Conditional Formatting Rules Manager and I select the worksheet, I now have 6 rules instead of 3, because I just copied those 3 rules from the first range into the second range. So I'm going to close that dialog box, and there is a clear rules functionality that I can clear rules from the selected cells or clear rules from the entire sheet, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to left-click that, and we start all over again. And since we have the ability to stack these rules and to turn them on and off and to present them in a hierarchical order where the first rule will carry the day if there's a conflict, we can do some interesting things with conditional formatting. I'm going to select this range again by pressing Control A, and I'm going to go to Conditional Formatting and set up a data bar with a gradient fill. And then I'm going to set up a second rule, a top-bottom rule. I want the bottom 10%. Actually, what I really want is the bottom 50%. And I'm going to conditionally format this by not selecting anything, which will give me all the default formats. Left-clicking OK. And what I really wanted to do was to show a data bar for all the values that fall into a group that's the top half of the values in this range. So there's one more thing we need to do. We're going to get the Conditional Formatting Rules Manager. I'm going to select this worksheet. I need to check this box, Stop If True, because if the cell's value falls in the bottom 50%, I don't want Excel to format that cell any further. So when I apply this, I'll left-click OK, I get what I'm after. I get a data bar showing for all the cells if that cell's value falls in the top half of the values for that region. So that's conditional formatting. We took a look at the rules of the rules for conditional formatting. We found that there's a lot of redundancy in the conditional formatting drop-down dialog boxes. That's not a bad thing, because all of these conditional format rules are quickly available to you wherever you are in that functionality. We established a conditional formatting rule, then we set up multiple rules and we managed our way through some of the rules and looked at some of the settings, we copied a conditional formatting rule from one region to another, where the effect of that is to establish more conditional formatting rules for that new region. And then we looked at a simple example of stacking the rules so we can refine the control that we have over the conditional formatting result.